All right, so I'm really sorry that the sound did not record on the other video. This iPad that they gave me has been having horrible issues. So hopefully someone at the district will be able to virtually fix that. But until then, I will make sure the volume actually recorded, or I mean the sound, because that's not okay. I'm just going to go through and explain all the things that are already written versus like rewriting it just for time's sake. Okay, so on the activity one, there's these three pictures. They're talking about the graphs being ordered in size. I mean, if you look at it, like the lines are different lengths, but I mean, that doesn't matter, right? Anyone who knows anything about slope knows that the only thing that matters is the slope. So if you look at what I've written, the first one is a negative slope, right? Because down to the right, the middle one is a zero slope because it doesn't have a slope, it's straight. It would also be the same if it were vertical. And then a positive slope because it's going up to the right. If you're still stuck on that, if you just plot two coordinates and put it into y2, if you just put it into y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, you'll get a number that's negative or positive if you get confused about like the orientation. Okay, second activity was talking about Jada earning $7 per hour mowing her neighbor's lawn. A wanted to know the two quantities in this situation that are in a functional relationship. What's the independent variable? What's the dependent variable? So T stands for time and M stands for money. You could have used different letters, of course. And then if you look at B, I wrote two equations. One, I wrote money equals 7 times time, right? 7 times the amount of hours, and that equals to how much money she earned. Whatever is on the left side of the equals sign, and if you're confused, we're looking at, oops, now I want a different color. We're looking at this, so I circled in red. Whatever's on the left side of the equal sign is dependent upon whatever's on the right side of the equal sign. So if you move things around, like if you look, for example, at what I've done in the green circle, I moved it to make T the dependent variable. Either equation is correct. I don't care which one you use, whichever makes sense to you. For C, what I did was I went ahead and graphed the equation circled in red, m equals 7t, just because I don't like dealing with fractions when I don't have to. Again, you could have done the other one. It doesn't matter. You're going to get the same thing. It'll just be reversed. So money is independent. Independent variable always goes on the x, and dependent variable always goes on the y, so that's time. And then you just, plug a number in. So like over here in this yellow box I've drawn, I just did simple math. I plugged a 1 into t and I got 7, so I got 7 comma 1. Okay, for the second activity, it wanted you to convert feet to yards, multiply the number. Okay, so this one I wanted you to do on your own. I gave you a head start. I gave you the equation, right? Like feet equals 3 times the amount of yards, or yards equals 1/3 the amount of feet. I forgot to put feet there. That would be an F. So there's your equations. The two quantities you're going to talk about are y and f, and then just explain, which one's dependent and independent depending on the equation you choose. And then you're going to graph it. Again, you're following what you graphed here in C, same exact setup. Depending on what equation you choose, it will change. But I want you to do that graph on your own. Activity 3 was filling up and draining a fish tank or something, some sort of tank. Anyway, A says which started with more water. The answer was B, because if you look, 400 is bigger than 200, so you started with more. Simple. Number 2 said write an equation representing a relationship between B and T. You start with 400, so I wrote 400, and we're looking at this equation in yellow. And then we lose 5 gallons per hour, so minus 5 times the hour. That's why we wrote that equation. So number 3 says one tank is filling up and the other is draining out. Which is which, and how can you tell? So a hint here is that I can tell because one is positive and one is negative. So negative is draining and positive is filling. Hope that makes sense. 4 says the amount of water is given by this function. I highlighted it in red. Is it draining or filling? Based on number 3, what do you think? Number 5, same idea. The line is going down. It's a negative slope. Do you think that's draining or filling? Okay, last activity, activity 4. Noah is a person's whose bank account is shown in the graph, and Elena is the person whose bank account information is shown in this equation. Number 1 wants you to explain who started out with more money in their account. They started out with the same because the y-intercept is the same. So if you look, maybe I'll erase and rewrite. But if you look, what I highlight in yellow, there's 60 as a y-intercept, there's 60 as a y-intercept. They're starting at the same amount. Who is saving money at a faster rate? Explain how you know. Well, the rate for Elena is given, right? It's 8W because it's like right here. For Noah, you're just going to calculate his slope, and then you'll find out his rate. Is it bigger or smaller than 8? You do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So for example, I highlighted these 2 points in pink. One of them is 4, 80, and then the other one is 0, 60. So I do, 80 minus 60 over 4 minus 0, and I get my slope. That goes in the blank that I've drawn and I'm now highlighting in yellow. Okay, that's what you do for 2. 3 is how much will Noah save over the course of a year if he does not make any withdrawals, and same with Elena. If you follow what I've written, I'm just plugging 52 because there's 52 weeks in a year in. You don't know Noah's slope yet, you have to calculate it, and that's what you'll multiply by 52. All right, if you are still confused, ask me for help, and I'll give you a code, and that is at 11:35.